In the dream, I'm always running. And I always die. The corridor stretches endlessly before me, walls pulsing with a faint orange glow, as if lit by distant fire. Shadows flicker. Maybe candlelight, maybe something else. My breath comes in short, sharp gasps, and the only sound louder than my racing heartbeat is the steady rhythm of footsteps behind me. He's close. I don't know who he is, not really. Not in the waking world, but in the dream, I know him like I know my own blood. And I know he's come for me. My bare feet slap against the cold stone floor. The air is thick, wet, electric. I'm not just scared, I'm hunted. I make the mistake of looking back. The silhouette is taller than I expect, moving with impossible speed. I catch a glimpse of his face, shrouded, blurred. But the eyes are clear, bright, burning. He reaches out. I feel his hand wrap around my wrist like a vice, not just cold, wrong. My skin screams in contact. I twist, try to pull away, but he doesn't let go. His voice is a whisper, low and close to my ear. You were never meant to leave. And then, pain. A flash of silver light, and silence. I wake up screaming. My sheets are twisted around my legs, soaked with sweat. The air in my room is still, but my chest is heaving like I ran a marathon. It takes a full minute before I can even sit up. I reach for the glass of water on my nightstand, and freeze. There, on my left wrist, is a red mark. Faint, but real. The shape of fingers. I stare at it in disbelief. Heart pounding. This wasn't just a dream. It never is. It's a warning. The office still smelled like her. Lavender oil and cinnamon tea, the subtle, comforting scent that clung to my mother's sweaters, her notebooks, the corners of her chair. Even though she'd been gone for nearly 3 months, I hadn't changed a thing in the room. The lamp with the cracked base. The crooked stack of Carl Jung paperbacks. The fern that always looked 1 week from death, but somehow never quite gave up. I sat in her chair, trying to feel like a real therapist, trying not to feel like a fraud in my mother's skin. The door creaked open. He stepped in quietly, no knock, no hesitation, as if he'd been here before. Kaiden Rowe? I asked, standing. He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me. Looked through me. Yes, he finally said. You're not who I expected. I forced a smile. I'm filling in for Dr. Monroe. She passed away recently. I'm her daughter, Lila. He tilted his head, examining me in a way that felt clinical, as if he was the one studying me. I'm sorry for your loss, he said. But his voice held no warmth. He moved toward the chair across from me, slowly, deliberately. Everything about him was deliberate. His posture, his pace, even the way his fingers tapped against his leg as he sat down. 1, 2, 3. Pause. Repeat. He looked 30, maybe a little younger. Sharp jawline, shadowed eyes, a faint scar above his left eyebrow, and another, more brutal one slashing across his forearm, pale against his otherwise sun-warmed skin. I opened my notepad. So, Kaiden, I said, what brought you here today? He stared at the bookshelf for a moment, then at the framed photo of my mother on the desk. I had a dream, he said. Well, a recurring one. My pen hovered. All right. And what's happening in these dreams? His eyes finally met mine. I'd kill someone, he said. Every time. Always the same woman. Something in my stomach twisted. I didn't show it. I was trained not to react. But his gaze didn't waver. Neither did his voice. She looks like you. My throat tightened, but I didn't flinch. That's a heavy thing to carry, I said carefully. Do you know this woman in real life? He gave a small, almost imperceptible shake of his head. No, I don't think so. But in the dream, I love her. I know I do, even when I'm... His voice caught. He looked away. Even when I'm killing her, he finished. The room felt colder. I reached for the small throw blanket behind me and draped it over my lap, more out of instinct than chill. I understand these dreams are disturbing, I said. But dreams often pull from unconscious fears, symbolic memory, trauma. Have you experienced any recent loss or emotional stress? He blinked. You really don't remember me, do you? My pen stopped mid-word. I'm sorry? I asked. He smiled then, but it was wrong. Not cruel, just misaligned. Like he didn't quite know how to do it anymore. You knew me. A long time ago, he said. Before this... I tried to steady my breath. Keep it clinical, Lila. Stay in control. Kaiden, this is our first session, I said. I can assure you we haven't met before. He nodded slowly, almost like he pitied me. Maybe not in this life, he said. Silence. Just the ticking of the old clock above the bookcase and the rustling of leaves against the window. I wanted to laugh, to tell him he was projecting confusing grief with delusion. But I couldn't, because something deep inside me, something not rational, believed him. I didn't know Kaiden Rowe, and yet, the moment he walked in, my body reacted like it remembered everything. Fight or flight, heat in my palms, that strange pressure behind the eyes that comes right before a cry, or a scream. He leaned forward then, elbows on knees. You don't have to believe me, he said. Just tell me if she ever dreams of me too. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. And then the session was over. The candles on the dining table flickered gently, casting golden light against the spotless glassware and polished wood. Our apartment looked like a page out of a design magazine. Sleek, modern, tasteful. Glass and wood, warm neutrals and curated comfort. But somehow, it always felt like I was borrowing someone else's life. Like nothing here had fingerprints. Across from me, Finn swirled his wine and smiled. The kind of smile that said, "Look how hard I'm trying for you." You barely touched your salmon, he said. I'm just... tired. His eyes scanned me like he didn't believe that answer. He was good at that. Reading people. Or thinking he did. Work? He asked. Or the dreams again? I hesitated too long. Finn set down his glass. Lila, we need to talk about this. I folded my napkin slowly, trying to keep my voice even. About what? You've been distracted for days. You jump when I touch you, you don't sleep. And today, you told me you had a session with a man who claimed to have killed you in a dream. I looked up sharply. I didn't say he killed me. I said he dreamed of killing a woman who looked like you. Right, he interrupted. You don't hear how unhinged that sounds? I pushed back from the table. It's not that simple, Finn. No, it never is with you, he said. You talk about dreams like they're real, like they're memories. And now this stranger walks into your life, and suddenly you're shaking, losing sleep, obsessing over coincidences? I stood, walking to the window. The city lights blinked below us like restless stars. I'm not obsessing. You are. He stood too, calm, controlled, in his tailored button-down and perfect posture. And you're losing perspective. You used to be grounded, rational. That's what I love about you, Lila. But lately, what? I asked, without turning. Lately, you're letting feelings run the show. And that's not professional. That's not you. I turned then, slow and deliberate. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think. He looked genuinely hurt by that. I know you better than anyone. That was the problem. He walked toward me and gently placed his hands on my shoulders. You're under pressure. You lost your mother. You took over her practice too soon. That place, it's filled with her ghosts. I stiffened. And maybe, he continued, voice softening, it's time to let that go. Close the office. Take some real time off. Come work with me. I could help you transition into something safer, something that doesn't eat you alive. His hand slid down my arms, warm and heavy. Let me take care of you. The thing was, part of me wanted that. The ease, the stillness, the absence of questions, but the rest of me, the deeper, older part, recoiled. because I knew what it meant to let him take care of me. It meant folding in, becoming less, smiling on cue, sleeping beside someone who didn't believe me. I stepped back. "Thanks for dinner." He blinked. "That's it?" "I'm tired," I said again. This time it sounded more like surrender. He didn't kiss me goodnight. I heard the door click shut 15 minutes later, just as I was brushing my teeth. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the dream. It didn't make me wait long. This time I wasn't running. I was already gone. The room was dark, lit only by candlelight. My body, was curled in someone's arms, limp and pale. My head lolled to the side, blood trailing from the corner of my mouth like a forgotten secret. And Kaiden was holding me, rocking back and forth, his face twisted with grief. He was whispering something over and over. I leaned in, even though I wasn't really there. "It wasn't supposed to end like this." His voice broke. He clutched me tighter, forehead pressed to mine. "It wasn't supposed to end like this." And then I woke up. This time, I was crying. My mother's study had been locked since the funeral. I told myself it was out of respect, that I wasn't ready, that grief needed space. But the truth was simpler and stranger. I was afraid of what she might have left behind. The key was still on her old keychain, nestled between the fob for the front gate and a tiny charm shaped like a teacup. I held it in my hand for a full minute before finally unlocking the door. The hinges groaned in protest. Dust greeted me like a curtain. The room was exactly as she'd left it. Soft lamplight, shelves bowing under the weight of psychology texts, a faint smell of lavender lingering in the drapes, and silence. So much silence, it felt like the air was holding its breath. I stepped in slowly, almost reverently. Her armchair was still angled toward the window. A teacup sat on the desk, long dried. A stack of patient files remained half-sorted on the edge of the oak surface. I went to the drawer I wasn't supposed to touch as a child, the one with the red handle. Inside was a leather-bound journal. No name on the cover, no label. Just soft, cracked leather and a ribbon bookmark sticking out near the back. I sat in her chair and opened it. The entries were dated, some written in hurried ink, others careful and deliberate. But they all had one thing in common: dreams. Recurring again, same corridor, same man. Eyes like fire. The woman changes, sometimes me, sometimes someone else. But the ending's always the same. He says her name now. Clear as day, Lila. My heart stuttered. Can dreams be inherited? Passed down like illness or memory? She's starting to see things too. She hasn't told me yet, but I know. Her hands shake like mine did. Her sleep is restless. She doesn't remember him, not yet. But he remembers her. I flipped to the bookmarked page, hands trembling. His name is Kaiden Rowe. I froze. I told him I couldn't help him. But he kept coming. He said he'd dreamed of me since he was a child. Before we met, before Lila was born. I thought cutting contact would end it. But he came back last week. Said it wasn't me he needed anymore. That it was her. I slammed the journal shut. Breath caught somewhere between panic and disbelief. It couldn't be real. Except it was. My mother, the most rational, clinical, unshakable woman I had ever known, had documented a man named Kaiden Rowe, who appeared in her dreams, spoke of other lives, and claimed to be bound to me. There was one more thing. Tucked into the back of the journal was a scrap of paper, folded in thirds, brittle with age. I unfolded it carefully. Her handwriting was shakier here, as if written in fear. If she meets him, she'll die, or he will. And this time, it won't be a dream. The room swam. I reached for the edge of the desk to steady myself. There was a truth buried in my mother's silence, one I was never supposed to uncover. Kaiden hadn't just walked into my life. He was meant to. And somehow, impossibly, my mother had known it all along. The cafe near the park was a sunny little bubble, all glass walls, leafy plants, and clinking silverware. Children shrieked joyfully outside on the playground. Someone behind the counter sang along to a Fleetwood Mac song, off-key but with conviction. It was the kind of place where nothing bad ever seemed to happen. And that's what made it worse. Kaiden was already at the table when I arrived, back corner, facing the door. Of course. He stood when I approached. No smile, just that same unreadable expression, eyes sharp beneath tousled black hair. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "Neither was I replied, sitting down. The table was between us. Small, but it felt like a canyon. "I didn't think therapists met their patients in public," he added. I ignored the jab. "This isn't a session. I just want answers." He nodded. "That makes two of us." We sat in silence while a waitress brought iced coffee. He didn't order, but somehow she knew exactly what to bring. Vanilla cold brew. "No cream." "Look," I began, "if this is some kind of obsession or manipulation." He pulled a photograph from his jacket and slid it across the table. I stopped mid-sentence. It was old, the edges frayed, the colors faded to sepia. A woman in a corseted dress, standing near a lake. Her hair was pinned up, her hands folded in front of her. She looked exactly like me. Not just a resemblance. Me. Same eyes. Same mouth. Even the curve of her collarbone beneath the lace. "My grandmother found this in a trunk years ago," Kaiden said. "She thought it was one of our ancestors. But I've seen her in my dreams since I was a kid, always dying. Always because of me." I looked up at him slowly. "You said her name was Lila." "No," he said. "I didn't know her name until I met your mother." I stiffened. "I came to her for help 5 years ago," he went on. "After the accident. I was in a coma for 3 days. When I woke up, things were different." Different how? Voices, images. I'd touch someone and see flashes, feel things that weren't mine. It started with dreams, the same one, over and over. Then it bled into everything else. "And my mother believed you?" She didn't say so. But she kept seeing me. Until one day, she said I was wasting my time and stopped returning my calls. I swallowed hard. She kept records. His gaze sharpened. "So you know I'm not making this up." I didn't answer. My fingers tapped against the coffee glass just to ground myself. He leaned forward, voice low. "I remember killing you," he said. "But I also remember loving you. In every version of us, that part never changes." I stared at him, stunned. The weight of his words settled in my chest like wet concrete. He wasn't asking me to believe him. He was telling me what he believed. Completely. Absolutely. My phone buzzed. Relief flooded me. An excuse to look away, to breathe. It was Finn. Finn, 2 missed calls text. "Lila, where the hell are you? Call me now." Text. "Is that man with you again? Delete his number." "I'm serious." Kaiden noticed. Of course he did. "You don't have to explain," he said. "Whoever he is, he's scared, not of me. Of what you'll remember." "That's not fair." "It's true." I stood abruptly, grabbing my bag. This was a mistake. He didn't move. Just looked up at me calmly. "You're not going crazy, Lila," he said. "You're waking up." I didn't respond. I just walked out into the sunlit noise of the street, heart pounding so loud it drowned everything else. "You know, this place is definitely haunted, right?" Selena's voice echoed through the narrow basement staircase as she tiptoed behind me in her velvet boots, waving a bundle of burning sage like a magic wand. "I thought you said it was just residual energy," I muttered, ducking to avoid a low beam. She grinned. "I say a lot of things. Depends on the vibe." The basement smelled like dust, old wood, and a little bit of mildew. It wasn't part of the original house tour and, for good reason, low ceilings, cracked floorboards, and the kind of silence that pressed on your ears like cotton. But something about this space had been pulling at me for days. "I had another dream," I admitted. Selena knelt by a wall and tapped a floorboard with her ring-covered knuckle. "You're gonna have to be more specific." Dead lover, choking fog, shadow figure? He was crying this time. Holding me. After I was all ready, I didn't finish. Selena looked up, expression softening. You're not sleeping, are you? I shook my head. I think my mother knew about all of it. She kept a journal, he was in it. Before I ever met him, that made her pause. You think he's part of some past life thing? I don't know what I think. But he showed me a photograph of someone who looked exactly like me. 19th century. And the name Rowe keeps coming up. Selena stood and dusted off her knees. Okay, witchy intuition kicking in, let's start there. We moved to the far corner, where the cement floor dipped slightly. Selena's boot hit something hollow. She crouched and started pulling up loose panels like a squirrel looking for snacks. After a minute, she gasped. Jackpot. From beneath the boards, she lifted out a small, warped wooden box, bound with a rusted latch. Dust puffed out as I opened it. Inside, a delicate silver pendant shaped like a teardrop, engraved with letters, LK. A folded stack of letters tied with twine, yellowed and cracked. A brittle map marked with tiny inked symbols and overlapping circles. It wasn't a geographical map. It looked more like a diagram of pressure points, with handwritten notations, emotional breach, reverberation line, anchor site. Selena held the pendant up to the light. LK. Lila Kaiden? Lila Kelly. Lila. Kill. Thanks, I said dryly, taking the necklace from her. She opened one of the letters and read aloud, To R, you must understand, I never meant to betray you. But love isn't bound by vows or blood. It arrives like lightning. It burns everything down. I'll wait by the lake. If you forgive me, come before the moon is full. Yours, always, L. We stared at each other. This is a love letter, I whispered. And she signed it, L. Selena nodded slowly. To R. Roland, or R. Rowe? Rowe, I said. Like Kaiden Rowe. She exhaled. Okay. This just went from ghost-adjacent to full-on karmic melodrama. I sat down on the dusty floor, holding the letter like it might disappear. My skin buzzed, my heartbeat erratic. What if I've lived this already? What if I'm stuck in some kind of loop I can't see? Selena crouched beside me and placed a hand on my shoulder. You're not crazy, Lila. You're remembering what? She picked up the map and pointed to one of the marked circles. This isn't a map of space, it's a map of energy, the kind that gets trapped when someone dies violently or loves the wrong person. I looked up at her. So what? I've resurrected a ghost? She shook her head. Not resurrected. Called back. You didn't just meet him, Lila, you pulled him here. I felt cold all over. Magic that strong, the kind that skips lifetimes, doesn't care about logic, it responds to emotion. Pain, regret, guilt. Her words hit something inside me like a bell. Magic of memory, she continued softly, isn't really about the past. It's about what we're still trying to fix. I clutched the pendant tightly in my palm. The initials seemed to burn into my skin. I don't even know who I was, I whispered. Selena smiled gently. Maybe not. But you're about to find out who you are. The Lexington estate looked like it had been carved from old money and pride. White stone columns, long shadows across manicured lawns, and ivy climbing the walls like secrets trying to escape. Finn's mother greeted me at the door in a silk blouse and pearls. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Lila, she said, as if surprised I was still around. Come in. The interior was as cold and impeccable as I remembered. Glass, dark wood, heavy furniture that no one actually used. Even the air felt rehearsed. I heard about your patient, she said as she led me into the sitting room. The man from your mother's office. I stiffened. Finn told you? She poured tea with perfect posture. He's worried. You've been distant, distracted. And frankly, so am I. I watched the steam curl from the porcelain cup. Do you know the name Lila Monroe? Her hand paused. Just slightly. But I saw it. "I don't believe so," she said smoothly. "You're sure?" She didn't look at me. "There are many Rows in the family trees around here. Why?" She was accused of witchcraft 2 centuries ago for seducing an engaged man. Now she looked at me, and this time there was something sharp in her expression, a glint of something older than disapproval. "Some stories," she said carefully, "are better left where they belong. In the past..." I set my cup down. Was she real? She hesitated. "She was a stain," she finally said. "A scandal. And yes, there was a man involved. But he wasn't blameless either. He was supposed to marry into our family." I leaned forward. "So Finn is a descendant of that man." She gave the faintest nod. "It was generations ago. It means nothing. It means everything," I whispered. Because now it all clicked. Finn wasn't just overprotective. He wasn't just threatened by Kaiden. He was part of it. Part of the story that kept repeating. I stood. "Thank you for the tea." She didn't walk me out. Back in our apartment, Finn was pacing. "You were gone for hours," he said, voice tight. "Why didn't you answer your phone?" "I was at your mother's..." His eyes flashed. "Why?" "I needed to know the truth." He froze. "What truth?" "That your family helped condemn a woman named Lila Monroe to death. That the man she was with was supposed to marry into your bloodline." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "That was hundreds of years ago. But the energy isn't gone. The cycle isn't broken. And I think you feel it, even if you don't understand it." He stepped closer. "You've been letting that man manipulate you." "Kaiden isn't manipulating me," I snapped. "You are..." Something in him cracked then. The mask slipped. "You were fine before he showed up," he said through gritted teeth. "You were stable, predictable. Now you're dreaming about past lives and talking about curses like some unhinged..." "Say it," I said. "Say what you really think of me." He slammed his hand on the counter. I flinched. Silence pulsed between us. "I think you need help," he said finally, cold and low. "And I'm not sure I can give it to you anymore." I nodded slowly. "You're right. You can't..." I walked past him and into the bedroom. My hands shook as I pulled a bag from the closet. "I'll be out by morning," I said. He didn't follow. That night I lay awake in the guest room of Selena's apartment, staring at the ceiling, heart hollow and humming. Finn wasn't just my fiancé. He was a tether to an old version of me, the version that obeyed, that stayed small, that died quietly. Not this time. It started like every dream with him did, on the edge of something. This time, it was the sea. Moonlight stretched across black water. A wooden bridge arched out over the waves, old and weather-worn. My bare feet creaked against the boards as I walked, dress whispering around my ankles. Kaiden was at the far end. He looked different here, softer, younger. His shirt open at the throat, hair damp as if he'd been swimming. The wind tugged at both of us like it was trying to keep us apart. "Lila," he said, reaching out. "You don't have to run this time." "I'm not running," I whispered. But I was. Not away, toward the moment I'd seen in dreams and shadows. The one that never changed. He stepped forward, and the world flickered. Suddenly, I wasn't Lila. Not entirely. I was someone older and someone already dead. Lila Monroe. The bridge blurred, aged. Lanterns swung in the wind. I could hear shouting behind me. Men with torches, with names they didn't understand spilling from their mouths like curses. And Kaiden, no, he, was there, holding out his hand. "You said you'd come," I choked. "You said we'd leave before..." "I tried," he said. "I swear I tried." But it was too late. A hand grabbed my arm from behind and dragged me back. A voice shouted my name in rage. And then... a blade. Pain bloomed white-hot in my chest, like lightning set fire to my lungs. Kaiden screamed. I collapsed into his arms, the world tilting sideways. His face hovered over mine, twisted in horror. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have burned it all down for you." Everything went dark. I woke to chaos. Someone was shouting my name. My body felt wrong, heavy, cold. I couldn't move. Then hands on my shoulders, warm, shaking. "Lila, come on, breathe, don't do this." Selena's voice, sharp, terrified. I gasped. Air tore into my lungs like glass. I jerked upright, soaked in sweat, hair clinging to my face. Selena wrapped a blanket around me, pulling me into her lap like a child. "What the hell just happened?" she whispered. "I saw it," I said, trembling. "The last time. The real one." She brushed the hair from my eyes. "You weren't breathing. Your skin was like ice." Before I could respond, the front door burst open. Finn, his face was pale, eyes wide as they landed on me, and then on Kaiden, who stood in the corner, breathless and wild-eyed. "You," Finn hissed. "Don't," I warned, standing on shaking legs. But he charged. Kaiden didn't flinch. He stepped between us, fast and quiet as a storm. Finn swung. Kaiden dodged. They grappled for a breathless moment, until Kaiden shoved him back with more force than I thought he had. "Get out," I said to Finn. My voice was raw. "Final. You don't know what he is," Finn spat, blood at the corner of his mouth. "No," I said. "But I know what you are." Finn stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Then he turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Silence followed. I sank to the floor, and Kaiden knelt beside me. "You saw it, didn't you?" he asked. I nodded. "I always thought I failed you," he said. But I didn't realize I let it happen. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the weight he'd carried through every version of us. "It's not about blame," I said. "It's about breaking the pattern." Selena handed me a cup of water. Her hands were still trembling. "What now?" she asked quietly. I looked down at the pendant around my neck, the one from the box, the one that somehow always seemed heavier than metal. "If I don't end this cycle now," I said slowly, "it'll destroy me again." Kaiden's hand found mine, not forceful, not pleading. "Just present. Then let's end it," he said. "Together." I packed in silence. No dramatic music, no symbolic thunderstorm outside. Just cardboard boxes, bubble wrap, and the mechanical hum of a fan spinning in the corner of a house I no longer recognized as home. The framed degrees came down first, then the books, then the small things that once felt like mine: photo strips, candle holders, mugs with sarcastic quotes. They looked hollow now, like the shell of a person I'd outgrown. Finn didn't say anything when I left. We'd had our final conversation the morning after the fight. No shouting. No apologies. Just two people standing in the kitchen with a chasm between them, too wide to build bridges now. He asked, "So that's it?" And I said, yes. Because it was. I sold the house in 2 weeks, closed the practice a week later, gave Selena half the furniture and left the rest behind. There were no tearful goodbyes, no sudden change of heart, just movement, just forward. Sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's just quiet detachment. Kaiden waited for me at the edge of the park. He was sitting on the bench beneath the willow tree, the same one we'd passed that first day. This time he looked lighter, less like someone carrying a life he didn't ask for. When I approached, he stood. No smile. Just that stillness he wore so well. "You really did it," he said, nodding at the bag over my shoulder. I shrugged. Wasn't much to save. That's not true." He stepped closer. "You saved yourself. Most people never even try." I looked up at him, feeling the wind tug at my jacket like it didn't want me to stay still. "I'm leaving," he said. "Going north, somewhere quieter. I don't know where yet, I need space." I nodded. "You deserve it." His gaze searched mine. "Come with me. I paused. Everything in me wanted to say yes. To run into the next chapter with him, hearts bruised but open. To see if we could love each other without the shadows of who we were. But instead, I said, "You saved me once. Let me save myself now." His breath caught. Just barely. But he didn't argue. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. The pendant from the basement. He placed it in my palm. "For when you forget who you are," he said. I closed my fingers around it, warm from his hand. "I won't forget," I whispered. "Not this time." We didn't hug, didn't kiss. There was something too sacred in this moment for that, just a shared silence. And then he turned and walked away. I watched until he disappeared behind the trees. That night, I dreamed again. But this time, there was no bridge. No blood, no water, no him. Just sky, just wind, just peace. And when I woke up, the first light of dawn spilling through the window, I smiled. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, I was finally free. The classroom smelled like dry erase markers and fresh coffee. 20 students filled the tiered rows, notebooks open, pens tapping, eyes occasionally flicking to their phones. I stood at the front, a stack of handouts in one hand and a dry erase marker in the other, already half wiped from nervous palms. It was my first day teaching trauma psychology at a small university in a sleepy coastal town. My name was on the door now, Professor Monroe, and that still felt strange in my mouth. But the work felt right. "I want you to forget everything you think you know about trauma," I told them. "Because it's not just about what happens to you, it's about what your mind believes happened. And what it does to survive." A few students nodded, some scribbled. One yawned. But in the back row, a man sat perfectly still. He was tall, lean, with sandy hair that curled slightly at the ends. A navy blue hoodie, sleeves pushed to the elbows. He wasn't taking notes. He was just watching me. And he was smiling. Not the smile of someone flirting, not the grin of someone amused. It was the kind of smile people wear when they've finally found something they lost long ago. After class, students filtered out. Some waved. One girl asked about extra credit, but the man stayed seated until the room emptied. I gathered my things slowly, pretending not to glance his way. "Do you need something?" I finally asked. He stood, slinging a bag over his shoulder. "Just one thing." He walked toward me, unhurried, easy, and stopped a few feet away. "I've seen you before," he said. "In a dream." My breath caught. Something flickered in his eyes, recognition, maybe, or something deeper. But he didn't press, didn't pretend. I smiled, heart calm in a way I hadn't known was possible. "Then let's make this one last," I said. He held out his hand. I took it.